You think 1980s budget cooking in Britain was just microwave chips and pot noodles. Think again. While the decade is often remembered for neon leg warmers and synth pop, the reality in many British kitchens was far more grounded in economic necessity. These recession-era households, navigating high unemployment and the shifting landscape of the Thatcher years, served up some of the most ingenious, penny-pinching and surprisingly satisfying meals in the country's history. There was no national food shortage like in the 1970s, but for many families money was tight and every meal had to justify its cost. Let's dig into the forgotten cheap meals from 1980s Britain that were actually masterpieces of making do. Findus crispy pancakes. Long before artisanal frozen food became a premium trend, there was this orange-breaded saviour. In the mid-1980s, as the freezer became the new high street shortcut for budget-conscious families, Findus crispy pancakes turned into Britain's most reliable Tuesday night dinner. You'd slide them onto a baking tray, the breadcrumbs a vibrant, almost fluorescent orange. In the oven, they'd sizzle until the edges went jagged and crisp. When you cut into one, a lava-like flow of minced beef or cheese and onion would ooze out, often hot enough to be a genuine hazard to your palate. Every bite was a textural gamble, the crunch of the coating, the soft give of the pancake, and the salty, vaguely savoury filling that somehow tasted exactly like 1984. This wasn't just cheap food, it was a symbol of the modern working-class home. Served with oven chips and frozen peas, it said, "We're making it work with maize without saying anything at all." Smash instant mash. Before we obsessed over organic, hand-mashed potatoes, there was the silver sachet of dehydrated potato flakes. Promoted by those laughing Martians, smash was the 1980s answer to peeling, boiling, and waste. Boiling water, a whisk, and minutes later you had a smooth, cloud-like mash with a faintly metallic tang and an unnaturally perfect texture. Served in giant ice cream scoop mounds with a lake of Bisto gravy poured into the middle, smash was convenience and economy combined. It filled stomachs for pennies and asked nothing in return. Toast toppers. Nothing says 1980s thrift like the tiny tins of toast toppers. These were for nights when the cupboard was bare and the fridge held little more than milk and a loaf of white bread. You'd peel back the lid to reveal a thick paste, spread it on toast and grill until it bubbled and browned. The kitchen filled with a salty, processed aroma that was oddly comforting. It was efficient, shelf-stable food, perfectly suited to latchkey evenings and tight budgets. Corned beef hash. When the grocery money ran low before the end of the month, the corned beef tin with its iconic metal key became the kitchen hero. One tin could feed a family if you bulked it up with enough cheap Maris Piper potatoes and onions. In 1980s kitchens, corned beef hash simmered in heavy pans, filling the house with a salty, beefy aroma that promised fullness. The onions browned, the potatoes softened, and the beef broke down into glossy chunks. Fried long enough, the bottom formed a dark, savoury crust. The good bits siblings would fight over. It wasn't elegant, but it was honest food that stuck to your ribs and cost pennies per serving. Vesta beef curry. No dish captures 1980s budget optimism quite like a Vesta ready meal. Curry houses were becoming more common, but eating out still wasn't an everyday option for many families. Vesta offered a shelf-stable, affordable version of something different for well under £1. You'd open the box to find sachets of dried grey meat, rice, and curry sauce powder. You'd boil the rice and rehydrate the beef until it resembled something organic. The smell was a heavy mix of turmeric and salt that filled the kitchen with an aroma of adventure on a budget. Each forkful delivered a mild, powdery spice that reminded you this was convenience food, not authenticity. But it worked. It required no skill, kept for months, and gave families a sense of variety during tight weeks. Frey Bentos tinned pies. The pie in a tin wasn't crisis food in the 1980s, it was insurance. One tin could deliver a hot, heavy meal with minimal effort. Beneath the raw puff pastry sat gravy and meat of uncertain origin. As it baked, the pastry rose into a flaky dome while the bottom layer stayed soggy and rich. Crunch on top, gelatinous comfort underneath. Industrial, unapologetic, and filling. Angel Delight. Dessert innovation peaked with this whip and chill miracle. When fresh cream felt like a luxury, Angel Delight turned a pint of milk into a treat. Powder, whisking, and a short chill produced a fluffy mousse that felt far more indulgent than it had any right to be. Butterscotch ruled the decade, its artificial tan colour a fixture at birthdays and Sunday dinners alike. Sweet, light, and unapologetically chemical, it was proof that even careful budgets left room for something nice. This journey through the 1980s British kitchen shows that even without national shortages, creativity thrived under constraint. These meals weren't glamorous or healthy by modern standards, but they did exactly what they needed to do. They fed families, stretched pay packets, and became part of everyday life. They weren't loved, they were relied upon.